Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you felt completely at peace in your relationship? Not just getting through another day, not just avoiding another argument. I mean genuinely respected, appreciated, and emotionally secure. If you had to stop and think about that for a moment, then this video is for you. Here's something that completely changed the way I look at relationships after years of studying relationship psychology and listening to the experiences of countless men. Most people believe men lose themselves because they're weak, emotionally unavailable, or simply choose the wrong woman. But in my experience, that's rarely the real story. The real danger isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't arrive overnight. It quietly grows through small relationship patterns that most men never recognize until they've already lost their confidence, their peace, and sometimes even their health. By then, the damage has been building for years. My name is Isabella, and today I want to walk you through the 5 relationship patterns that quietly destroy many men's lives. I know that sounds like a bold statement, but stay with me because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you see your own relationships. And I promise you, the number 1 pattern isn't what most people expect. In fact, it's something many men tolerate every single day without realizing how deeply it's affecting them. Before we go further, if you find this helpful, please hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. I love hearing from the men in this community. Now let's get into it. Coming in at number 5 is something that many men mistake for a normal part of love: constant emotional stress inside a relationship. Before you dismiss this as simply dealing with the ups and downs of being with someone, stay with me. Because the real danger isn't having disagreements. It's what happens when emotional tension becomes your everyday reality, and most men never realize how much it's costing them until it's far too late. Now, let's take a closer look at why constant emotional stress inside a relationship comes in at number 5. Most men believe the biggest threat to a relationship is cheating, a major betrayal, or one explosive argument. But in reality, the damage usually begins much more quietly. It starts with constant criticism, feeling like you're never good enough, walking on eggshells because you never know what might trigger the next disagreement. Little by little, emotional tension becomes your normal way of living. I've spoken to many men who didn't even realize they were under constant emotional pressure until they stepped away from the relationship. While they were living through it, they convinced themselves that this was simply what commitment looked like. They believed every relationship had to feel exhausting. It doesn't. The human mind isn't designed to live in a constant state of emotional conflict. When every conversation feels like a test, when every decision is questioned, and when peace inside your own home becomes rare, your body and your mind never truly relax. Instead of feeling supported by the relationship, you begin feeling drained by it. The saddest part is that many men blame themselves. They think, maybe if I worked harder, maybe if I earned more money, maybe if I stopped making mistakes, everything would finally get better. So they continue giving more while receiving less, hoping one more sacrifice will finally bring them peace. But healthy relationships don't require you to sacrifice your emotional well-being just to keep the other person happy. A relationship should challenge you to grow, but it should also become a place where you can breathe, where you feel respected, understood, and emotionally safe. If you're constantly anxious before walking through your own front door, that's not something you should ignore. If this sounds familiar, don't convince yourself that it's simply part of being a man. Start setting healthy boundaries. Have honest conversations. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time together. The right relationship should leave you feeling stronger, not emotionally exhausted. And remember, constant emotional stress is only number 5. The relationship pattern coming in at number 4 is even more dangerous because most men mistake it for strength, when in reality, it's quietly destroying them from the inside out. Coming in at number 4 is something that walks into far more relationships than most men realize. Suppressing your emotions. At first, this doesn't sound dangerous. In fact, many men have been taught that it's exactly what they're supposed to do. From an early age, they're told to stay strong, keep moving forward, never complain, and never let anyone see them struggle. While resilience is an admirable quality, constantly burying your emotions is something entirely different. One of the biggest misconceptions I see is that silence is a sign of strength. A man gets hurt by something his partner says, but instead of talking about it, he tells himself it's not worth bringing up. He feels unappreciated, but convinces himself he'll just work harder. He feels disrespected, but chooses to ignore it because he doesn't want another argument. After a while, This becomes his way of dealing with everything. The problem is that emotions don't disappear simply because you refuse to acknowledge them. They accumulate. Every disappointment, every insult, every broken promise adds another layer of emotional weight. Eventually, that weight begins changing the man himself. He becomes distant without meaning to. He loses patience over small things. He stops laughing as much. Even the people closest to him notice that something feels different, though they can't quite explain it. I've often told men that your emotions are like pressure building inside a sealed container. Ignoring the pressure doesn't make it disappear. It only increases until something eventually gives way. Sometimes that looks like anger. Sometimes it looks like complete emotional withdrawal. Sometimes it looks like giving up on the relationship altogether. Real strength isn't pretending nothing affects you. Real strength is having the courage to communicate with honesty, maturity, and self-respect. It means saying, "That hurt me," without becoming hostile. It means expressing your needs without feeling ashamed. It means dealing with problems before they quietly grow into resentment. The healthiest relationships aren't built by two people who never feel pain. They're built by two people who are willing to face that pain together instead of pretending it doesn't exist. And remember, suppressing your emotions is only number 4. What comes next catches many men completely off guard because it begins with love, but slowly ends with a man forgetting who he is. Coming in at number 3 is one of the most common mistakes I see men make, and unfortunately, it's often praised as proof of love. Losing yourself to keep a woman happy. The dangerous part is that it doesn't happen overnight. It happens so gradually that most men never notice it until they wake up one day feeling like a stranger in their own life. Every healthy relationship requires compromise. That's normal. You make time for each other, you support one another, you learn to adjust. But there's a difference between compromise and self-abandonment. I've seen men slowly stop doing the things that once gave them purpose. They stop spending time with friends because it creates tension at home. They give up hobbies they genuinely enjoy. They stop chasing personal goals because all of their energy goes into trying to keep the relationship together. Before long, their entire identity revolves around making one person happy. At first, they call it love, then they call it responsibility. Eventually, it becomes a habit. The problem is that when a man loses his purpose, he often loses the very qualities that made him attractive in the first place. The confidence that once came naturally begins to disappear. His decisions become based on approval instead of conviction. Instead of leading his own life, he starts waiting for permission to enjoy it. One thing I've learned over the years is that genuine attraction isn't built on endless sacrifice. It grows when two people respect each other as individuals. A healthy woman doesn't want a man who has no identity outside the relationship. She wants a man who continues to grow, continues to pursue his purpose, and still chooses to love her without losing himself in the process. If you've stopped investing in yourself, it's time to change that. Reconnect with your goals. Spend time with people who bring out the best in you. Take care of your health. Continue learning. Continue growing. The strongest relationships are built by two complete people, not by one person disappearing to satisfy the other. Never make someone else the center of your entire world. A relationship should become an important part of your life. It should never become your entire life. Because when a man slowly loses himself, he often begins losing something even more important. And remember, losing yourself is only number 3. The habit coming in at number 2 quietly steals a man's peace every single night. Most men think it's just stress, but it's doing far more damage than they realize. Coming in at number 2 is something I genuinely wish more men recognized before it began affecting every area of their lives. Losing sleep because of relationship problems. Most men think poor sleep comes from working too many hours, financial pressure, or simply getting older. While those things certainly play a role, I've noticed another pattern that often goes unnoticed. Some men don't lose sleep because they're busy. They lose sleep because they can never switch their minds off. It starts innocently enough. After another disagreement, he lies awake replaying every word that was said. He wonders if he should have responded differently. He questions whether she's losing interest. He checks his phone one last time, hoping for a message that never comes. Then another hour passes. Before he knows it, it's 2 or 3 in the morning, and his mind is still trapped in yesterday's problems. Night after night, this becomes his routine. The body may be lying in bed, but the mind is still fighting battles that haven't even happened yet. The longer this continues, the more it begins changing the man himself. He wakes up already exhausted. His patience becomes shorter. Small problems suddenly feel overwhelming. He starts making emotional decisions instead of wise ones because a tired mind rarely sees situations clearly. One thing I've learned is that many relationship problems become much bigger after midnight. When you're emotionally drained and physically exhausted, your mind naturally expects the worst. That's why arguments seem impossible to solve at night and much more manageable after proper rest. If this has become your reality, give yourself permission to stop carrying every relationship problem into bed with you. Put your phone away. Stop rereading old conversations. Accept that some questions don't need answers at midnight. A clear mind tomorrow will always make better decisions than an anxious mind tonight. Protecting your sleep isn't selfish. It's one of the smartest investments you can make in your emotional well-being, your physical health, and your ability to handle relationships with maturity instead of frustration. Because a man who never truly rests eventually loses more than just his energy. But remember, losing sleep because of relationship problems is only number 2. The number 1 relationship pattern is far more dangerous because it quietly destroys a man's confidence, his peace, and eventually the foundation of the relationship itself. Most men don't recognize it until the damage has already been done. And now we've reached the number 1 relationship pattern that quietly destroys more men than almost anything else: losing her respect. I know that statement may sound surprising to some people. Many assume that the biggest threat to a relationship is infidelity, financial problems, or constant arguments. While those things certainly damage relationships, I found that they often begin after something even more important has already been lost: respect. Once genuine respect starts disappearing, everything else begins to weaken with it. Communication becomes colder, small disagreements become personal attacks, kindness is replaced with criticism, encouragement turns into constant fault-finding, and little by little, the relationship becomes a place where a man feels judged instead of valued. The most dangerous part is that it rarely happens all at once. It starts with little comments that seem harmless. She interrupts him whenever he speaks. She mocks his ideas instead of listening to them. She criticizes him in front of family or friends. Nothing he does ever seems good enough. Instead of feeling appreciated for his efforts, he feels like he's constantly defending himself. Many men respond by trying even harder. They work longer hours, they become more available, they give more of their time, their energy, and their attention, believing that if they just prove themselves a little more, things will return to the way they were. Unfortunately, that's rarely how respect works. Respect isn't restored by abandoning your own standards. In many cases, the more desperately a man seeks approval, the more he loses the confidence and self-respect that helped create attraction in the first place. One of the healthiest lessons every man can learn is this: love and respect should always exist together. A woman who genuinely values you may disagree with you, challenge you, or hold you accountable, but she should never make it her mission to constantly diminish your confidence or make you feel small. Never mistake repeated disrespect for love. Never believe that enduring emotional humiliation is proof of commitment. The strongest relationships are built on mutual admiration, honest communication, and 2 people who value each other equally. When you step back and look at all 5 relationship patterns, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Men rarely lose themselves in one dramatic moment. They lose themselves through small patterns repeated day after day. Constant emotional stress slowly drains their spirit. Suppressing emotions silently builds resentment. Losing their identity steals their confidence. Sleepless nights cloud their judgment. And when respect disappears, the foundation holding everything together begins to crumble. The good news is that awareness changes everything. The moment you recognize these patterns is the moment you can begin changing them. Protect your peace. Protect your purpose, protect your self-respect. Because when a man refuses to lose those 3 things, he gives himself the best chance to build the kind of relationship where both partners can truly thrive. Our entire mission here is to help men build relationships that are grounded in respect, emotional strength, wisdom, and lasting peace. Every video on this channel is created with one purpose: to help you understand female psychology, avoid the mistakes that quietly destroy relationships, and become the kind of man who earns genuine love and respect without losing himself in the process. If today's video challenged the way you've been thinking, then it has already achieved its purpose. Sometimes the most important lessons aren't the ones that teach us something completely new. They're the ones that finally put into words what we've been feeling for years but could never explain. Awareness is always the first step toward change. Now, I'd really like to hear from you. Which of these 5 relationship patterns do you think is affecting the greatest number of men today? Is it constant emotional stress inside the relationship, suppressing emotions, losing yourself to keep someone else happy? Sleepless nights caused by relationship problems? Or do you believe that once respect is lost, everything else begins to fall apart? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you've experienced any of these patterns personally, or you've watched a friend, a brother, or someone you care about slowly lose himself because of them, your story could encourage another man who feels like he's facing these struggles alone. I read as many of your comments as I can, and I